And as you can see, it's pulling in the type, which is an article. It's pulling in the ID, which is the URL, but was extremely important. Hey, today we're talking about how to rank in ChatGPT and other LLMs. According to Google, over 122 million people use ChatGPT every single day. So it's fair to say that it's more important than ever for marketers and SEOs to understand how LLMs work, like ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek, and all these other tools, and understand how it surfaces brands and information so us marketers and SEOs can show up when people are searching for things. If you're watching this, you might already have a website, you might work at a company, and you might have even already gotten SEO traffic, say, from Google. But how do you actually go about doing it with LLMs if this is really the future of how search behavior is changing? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's actually kind of a science and an art, and we're going to go over that in this video. And I do believe that I've started to crack the code on how this sort of works over the past year, and very specifically over the past 6 months of just constantly A/B testing with my own website and with my clients' websites. And today, ChatGPT is my second biggest referrer of organic traffic to my website, and it's also the same for many of my clients. So I've basically compressed everything that I've learned over the past year, and very specifically in the past 6 months, into this one video, and I brought it down into 8 different strategies or kind of tips on how I've been able to get my own website to rank in ChatGPT. And some of this stuff I have not even heard a lot of people mention online on platforms like LinkedIn and X/Twitter. So you're probably going to learn something new in this video. All right, let's go dive into these 8 different tips. Okay, so the first tip is to use Bing Webmaster Tools. So everybody knows that Microsoft is a big investor in OpenAI, and it takes a lot of its searches and ideas for how to actually rank stuff in Search GPT through Bing search. So you definitely want to make sure that you have your Bing Webmaster Tools set up. If you've used Google Search Console, it's very similar. You're just going to go through the process of setting it up. It's completely free. And then you're going to go into sitemaps, and you're going to make sure that you submit your sitemap for your website so Bing can start crawling and indexing your website. So for example, because my website is using Bing Webmaster Tools, I've actually been able to get a lot of my articles that I've ranked in Google to also rank in Bing search. So if I go to Bing and I type in best marketing books, we could see that I come up number 1 for best marketing books in Bing. And if I even scroll down, I can see I'm outranking sites like Neil Patel, which is huge, Amazon, and some other pages. So because I rank number 1 in Bing for this term, let's actually go ahead and check it out in ChatGPT. So if I just go to chat.com, it'll redirect to ChatGPT. I'm going to do it in an incognito window, and I'm going to search. I'm going to say, what are the best marketing books? Let it load. And as you can see, it's recommending us a handful of books here. And if I go to sources, I can see that in the number 1 source here, these are the citations, but in the number 1 source here, my website also comes up, and it reflects very well into Bing. I was number 1 in Bing, and now I'm also number 1 in the search results within Search GPT. So you definitely want to use Bing Webmaster Tools and make sure that you're optimizing for Bing as a search engine. Okay, staying on the technical stuff, the next thing you want to do is actually implement schema markup on your website. So schema markup is essentially this JSON file of structured data that you put on your web pages. Normally it would go on your homepage of your website, and then also on your individual web pages that you want to surface in search. And by that, I mean mostly blog articles that are on your website. So your homepage and your blog articles, make sure they have schema markup. And what this does is it tells search engines what this page is about. Now, this is actually a best practice for Google, but it actually reflects over into LLMs because LLMs love structured data and it wants to understand what this web page is about. So if I actually go back to that best marketing books article that I have, and I go to my blog on marketermilk.com, and I right click on this article and I hit view page source, and I actually do Command F and I look for schema, you can see that I actually have schema markup on this web page. And as you can see, it's pulling in the type, which is an article. It's pulling in the ID, which is the URL. It's pulling in the exact headline. It's pulling in the meta description. It's pulling in the author. It's pulling in the company that made this, which is Marketer Milk. And it's even pulling in the publish date and the date modified. Now, these are super important, as we'll talk about in the next one of the future tips in this video, but schema markup is extremely important. And you can literally go to Google and search schema markup generator, and it's usually this first link from Technical SEO. And if you scroll down, you can hit article and you can start filling out this information, and you can easily create schema markup. And then what you do is you essentially just copy the entire thing and you put it in the head section of your body's website, like the code. So if you're using a platform like WordPress or Webflow, it should be fairly easy to do this. But if you're using a more custom built solution, you're working at a company, probably want to talk to an engineer to figure out how you can do this, but it's very easy. It literally takes a few seconds. Okay, the next thing you want to do is write for Google and Bing. Well, what I mean by this is that if you're following Google best practices, they are going to translate over nicely to LLMs and ChatGPT, but you want to go a little bit further as well. So, for example, the schema markup we just talked about, Google used to love that, and it still does. And it prefers websites that have it, but it's not a make or break for you to rank. A lot of articles that rank on the first page and number one, some of them don't have schema markup in Google. But when you look at ChatGPT, most, if not all of them, do have schema markup. So you want to always follow best SEO practices. And I might have a video already on like an SEO guide here. If it's not there yet, then I have yet to make it. But that video is coming soon, and you can see it probably up here if it comes up, if it's available. But for example, if we stay on the topic of the best marketing books, as you can see, I'm right here, number 3, and in Google. And if I actually go to Perplexity, which is like an AI search engine, and I type in what are the best marketing books, we can see that in Perplexity, I actually come up as number 1 in the answers. And if it even shows as I'm being cited in the sources, if I even click on sources, you can see that I'm number 1 outranking Forbes and Reddit, which is pretty powerful. So if you can optimize for Google, it does reflect into other search engines as well. Now, if you want to learn more about how to actually write for SEO in your articles, I actually have a free blog post on how to do this. If you go into Google and type in how to write SEO blog posts, it should be one of the ones on the first page here, this article right here. And if you just read through it, I basically explain how I've been doing this for the past 9 years, and how I've done it for companies and where I used to work at Webflow, and then how I've actually done it for my own website. So this article will literally teach you everything on how to actually write for Google SEO. So this will translate over nicely to Bing and then the other AI search platforms like Perplexity, and then even also ChatGPT. Okay, the next tip is to use autocomplete and people also ask sections within Google and other search engines, and then take the questions you find from there and answer them in an NLP friendly format. Let me explain what that means. That was a lot of jargon. Okay, so if we go back to Google and we type in the best marketing books, first thing you can see is that there's a section called people also ask. Now, you want to make note of what these are, and generally when I write articles, I get inspiration for H2 headings from the people also ask sections. And if you were to click into any of these, what you want to do is the best chance that you have of showing up within these is if you answer them in an NLP friendly format. Now, I'm going to explain what that is in a sec, but let me show you some other things. For example, if you also go to ChatGPT, you can start typing in what are the best marketing books. And if you hit space, you can see the autocomplete says to read this year. So you might want to include that as a heading within your blog post. You can also experiment. Just start typing in marketing books and hit space, and maybe nothing comes up in this case. So you want to do is actually go into Perplexity as well. Now we can also do the same in Perplexity. So if we type in best marketing books space, we can see it says of all time, 2024, 2025 to read. And so you want to use these. As you can see, this autocomplete is what I actually use in my H1 title tag. So you want to get inspiration from what people are also searching for, because a lot of times these autocomplete suggestions show what people are searching for in real time. And if you can match that intent by answering these questions in an NLP-friendly format, you have a higher likelihood of showing up in ChatGPT and other LLMs and just Google in general. It's just such a powerful organic search engine traffic tactic. Now, what does NLP-friendly format mean? So writing in an NLP-friendly format means writing in a way for computers to essentially understand clearly what the content is and what you're trying to convey. So in this case, if I were to type in what is AI into ChatGPT, it essentially, this first paragraph, this is an NLP friendly format. So what is AI? AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programmed, blah, 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 blah. And it goes on, and it's just a very clear human way of describing something. So what you can do is you can go into ChatGPT when you have those headings or questions that you find from autocomplete, and you can say, can you answer this in an NLP friendly format? Now, you don't want to take exactly what it outputs, which we'll talk about in a sec, but it can give you an idea of how you should be approaching the answer to that question. So if you can answer things in an NLP friendly format, it really helps show up in LLMs like ChatGPT. Okay, the next tip is to keep your publish dates fresh. So again, if we go back to ChatGPT and I look up the same example, best marketing books, I wrote book here, and I go down and we look at the sources, what you'll notice is that at least in these sources right here, you can see that everything goes in order of date. So the latest one here from me, then there's Reddit, which is from almost a year ago, and then there's this one from February, which is even before that, and this one from even before that. So as you can see, the dates go down in order. And if you actually do this in ChatGPT search and you look at what it's showing in the search results, you'll notice that it's in order of publish dates. So this means that it's really important to update your content, to keep it fresh, and to constantly change the publish date. And sorry, not constantly, but like at least 3 to 6 months, go back, refresh articles that are outdated, and update the publish date. And this is why when we talked about in tip 2 of schema markup, it's really important that that publish date is also pulled into the schema markup so it can reflect within LLMs and it knows the date that it's been published. So this is one that's just really simple. It's like a Google SEO tactic, but it reflects really nicely to LLMs because it looks like LLMs actually care even more than Google does about fresh content. Okay, the next one is to not use AI to generate content. And you'll notice that there's tons of different tools right now that are basically AI writing tools, AI blogging tools, scale your blog with AI. I highly recommend not to use these tools to just spit out content and publish it blindly on your website. And the reason for this is that because LLMs are trained on human information and new information. And the goal for ChatGPT, Grok, all these platforms, the way they win is by creating a great user experience. And the better the user experience, the more likely somebody is to come back and use the platform, and they have this strong user retention. That's why Google has won over the past 2 decades of being the best search engine, because while marketers and people in the SEO community might complain that Google is dead or it doesn't work, the numbers still show that most people use Google because they have a good experience with it, so they keep coming back. And LLMs want the same thing. They want people to keep using their platform and have a good experience with it. So if you can create new content that is fresh, that LLMs have not seen before, that's the stuff that LLMs crave because they want to surface that to their users. So write in your own human way, write about things you know, and make sure to not use AI to generate content. It's how I've grown my blog, marketermilk.com, to nearly over 100,000 visitors a month, outranking, as you saw earlier, blogs like Neil Patel. I've outranked huge publicly traded companies simply because I write from the heart and I write about things that I know, and I write 100% myself, and I never use AI. So take my word for it, write about things you know, and don't use AI to generate content and publish that in the hopes that it's going to show up in LLMs or Google or SEO in general. Okay, the next tip is to earn mentions on other publications. So this can mean backlinks, this can mean getting people to just talk about you in general. And I know this one is kind of hard to do, but as you can see, if it's a Google strategy or Google SEO strategy that can help with LLMs showing up. Now you might be saying, hey, I can't get backlinks, or how the heck do I even get people to mention me? Well, a strategy is that you can mention yourself, Let me show you what I mean. So for example, there's a company called Moxo. It's like this client portal software for small businesses and large businesses. And let's say you are a Moxo competitor or you're another tool, a SaaS company in that same space. If I type in ChatGPT, what are the best Moxo alternatives? We can start seeing what comes up. So we have this one from Copilot, we have Fusebase, we have Clinked, we have Dubsado, all these different alternatives to Moxo. Now, how the heck do these come up? Say you are Copilot, how do you actually get that to work? Well, if you actually go onto the Copilot and you hover over it, you can see that Copilot has actually written a blog about the best Moxo alternatives and has put themselves in that article, and the LLM has then scraped that from the web and then mentioned them clearly as the first one for the best Moxo alternatives. So it is kind of a sneaky strategy that a lot of SaaS companies use, where you're going after these very bottom of funnel keywords of like versus types or alternative keywords. But sometimes, if you can't get other people to mention you, just start writing articles with listicles that mention your own company, going after non-branded keywords. And eventually ChatGPT will start to understand that you're mentioned here, and your competitors, if they're doing the same strategy, they're eventually going to start mentioning you as well. And it kind of creates this flywheel where, because you're mentioning yourself and you're showing up in Google or in other search engines, other people discover you and they start mentioning you, and it kind of snowballs. And over the next few months and even couple years, you then have a bunch of new mentions mentioning your company within the space that you're in and the topics that you're going after. And that is what's going to help you show up. And that's how you can start kind of ignite that engine of getting people to mention you by having more control yourself. Because a lot of times brands that mention you, backlinks, it's not always in your control. Okay, and the last tip, which comes straight from someone I admire, Kevin Indig, who's an expert SEO at The Growth Memo. What he discovered is that branded search, the more branded search you have, the more likely you are to show up in LLMs and ChatGPT. And I couldn't agree more with this concept. Now, branded search is how many times people are searching your brand, let's say in Google, but it could be in any search engine, but mostly we'll talk about Google here. And this reflects essentially how well you are known as a company or a brand. And if people are searching you more, then that means it's more likely that you're mentioned in other places, and it's more likely that you're going to show up in ChatGPT or in LLMs as a recommended product or service. Now, how do you actually grow branded search volume? It's hard. It's an accumulation of every marketing initiative that you do. It could be going viral on Twitter. If you have a Twitter account, it could be talking about your brand and what you do on LinkedIn. It can be making YouTube videos. It can be blogging. It could be running ads, which is a huge one. Or what you can also do is sponsor creators to basically talk about your products and services. And a lot of times people will hear a creator mention a brand, and instead of clicking on the link, they might actually go straight to Google or whatever search engine and then search that company name, which then increases the brand search volume. And so it's an accumulation of a bunch of different things, but this is a leading indicator of the more people that search your brand, the more likely you are to show up in LLMs and search engines in general. And a lot of times, branded search is such a foundational level to scaling all your other marketing initiatives. Like when I work with clients, if they have a strong branded search, like their brand is being searched at least like 1,000 times a month, and they have no other SEO initiatives, I know it's absolutely easy to crush it for them because people are actually searching their brand, which means they're seeking out their products and services. So this one just comes from building a strong brand and having this omni-channel, kind of omnipresence marketing approach where you're using a bunch of different marketing channels to kind of get people to know about you. All right, and that's it. These are my 8 tips on how to rank in ChatGPT and other LLMs today. In this video, you essentially learn that you should set up Bing Webmaster Tools. You should implement proper schema markup on both your homepage and your blog. You should continue to write for Google and Bing, just following those SEO best practices. You can look up my article on how to do that for free. And we also learned about the Google autocomplete and the Perplexity autocomplete and using ChatGPT for autocomplete and finding ideas for headings in your articles and in your content, and also understanding how to answer them in an NLP friendly format. We also learned about keeping publish dates fresh and updated. And we also talked about not using AI to generate content because LLMs are craving new information and they don't want to be trained on the information that they're already outputting. So they need new inputs, not inputs based off of their outputs. Then we learned about understanding how to grow your mentions on your website, and then also how branded search plays an important role in how LLMs and ChatGPT decide to promote your products and services. All right, I hope you learned something in this video. If you have any questions or there's other strategies that you've learned or videos that you want to see, please leave them below. Subscribe to the Marketer Milk newsletter, where I share my tips and information all around the web from some of the coolest marketing tools, resources, and guides that I find. All right, see you in the next one. Peace.